Hello everyone. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to create Azure Storage account and resource group using Terraform. I'll explain the step-by-step process. First, let's see the project overview. As a developer, we will write the .tf file with the resource definition such as storage account and the resource group, and we will use Terraform CLI, and we will run the commands like init, plan and apply to process configuration. Next, we will use the Azure provider, that is the Azure RM. Azure provider is like a translator between Terraform and Azure. It translates the Terraform configuration into Azure REST API calls. Next, we have Azure Resource Manager that acts as a control plan for all Azure resources. Next, we have Azure Resources. From the Azure Resources, we create the resource group and the storage account. We will see the definition of each stages. First, as a developer, we write the main.tf file with a resource definition. The resource definition contains the resource group and the storage account. And then in the Terraform CLI, we run commands like Terraform init to initialize the project and Terraform plan to preview the changes. And we will run Terraform apply to provision resources. Next, we have Terraform provider, which is a Terraform plugin. The Terraform provider translates the .tf definition into Azure API request. Next, we have Azure Resource Manager. Azure Resource Manager is the Azure control plane. ARM receives API request from Terraform. From the Azure resources, ARM provisions and manages resource group and the storage account. Here are some of the prerequisites for this demo. First, we need Terraform CLI. Here are the commands to install Terraform CLI. Once it is installed, we can verify the installation using Terraform-version command. The next prerequisite is Azure CLI. Here are the steps to install Azure CLI. Once it is installed, we can verify the installation using AZ-version command. Next, we need Azure subscription. In order to verify the Azure subscription, we can use AZ login in Azure CLI, and using AZ Azure show command, we can see the Azure subscription details. Here is my project directory, Terraform storage demo. In this project directory, I have a file called main.tf. I have opened this directory in Visual Studio Code. Now let me explain the main.tf file. The first block tells Terraform which provider your configuration will use. We are using Azure Resource Manager provider. For managing the Azure resources, we are downloading from the official Azure provider website from HashiCorp/Azure RM. We will ensure Terraform uses the version 4.x. Next is the provider block. The purpose of this provider block is to configure the Azure provider with your credentials and any required features. I have kept the features as empty unless you wanted to enable any specific feature. And here is my Azure subscription ID. This is to log in to your Azure account so that Terraform can manage your resources. The next block is the resource group. We are creating a resource group called Azure RM_resource_group. We are creating a resource of type Azure resource group with the local name RG. Here is the name of our resource group. Here is the region. Our resource group is in East US. The next block is the storage account. We will create the storage account inside the resource group. This is the resource group we created in the previous block. And here is the name of our storage account. This should be globally unique. And here is the location. The location is the same as that of the resource group location, that is East US. The account tier is standard and the replication type is LRS, that is locally redundant storage. In the sense, replication inside a single data center. We will get into the demo. First, we will see if Terraform is installed. In order to verify the installation, we have to type Terraform-version. We have the version 1.13.2 is installed. Next, we will verify if Azure CLI is installed. In order to verify the installation, I type Azure -- version. We have this Azure CLI already installed. As a first step, let me log in into Azure. I'm using the command IaC login. Let me log in into Azure. I have already logged in into Azure. Here is my Azure homepage. Now let me go to Visual Studio and initialize Terraform. Before that, I am getting a prompt that which subscription to use. Here is the default subscription. So I'm clicking enter to use the default subscription. Now let's initialize the Terraform using Terraform init command. The Terraform init command look for the file .tf in your current directory and it checks which provider and backends are required and then it will download the provider. In our case, the provider is Azure RM. It downloads the Azure plugin from the Terraform registry and it also creates two folders .terraform and the next folder is .terraform.log.hcl. Think of this as Terraform packing your tools for your project. Next, it will initialize the backups. It prepares where the Terraform will store its state file and it also validates the configuration. Terraform init command checks the .tf file for basic syntax errors. After running this command, you will see Terraform has been successfully initialized. That means that your project is ready for plan and to apply. In short, Terraform init command download plugins, set up folders, prepare state file and check syntax. Now we will run Terraform plan command. Let me run Terraform plan. The Terraform plan command is to preview what Terraform will do without making any changes. It reads the .tf configuration and it checks the current state of resource in Azure and it also shows the execution plan. Here is the execution plan. Next we will run Terraform apply. Terraform apply command actually creates, updates and delete resources on your cloud provider. In our case, the cloud provider is Azure based on your .tf configuration. It uses the execution plan to perform changes. It reads the configuration using .tf file and it compares the state file that is created here to check what exists and what should exist. And it shows the summary of changes and it also prompts for the confirmation. Do you want to perform this action? In our case, I will type yes. Now it creates the resource group and the storage account. We see that the resources are getting created. Let's wait until it is completed. We see that the apply completed and two resources are created. One is the resource group and the next one is the storage account. Now let me go to the Azure portal and see if the resources are created. Let me go to the resource group. We see that the resource group is created in the subscription 1 in the location East US. Let me go to the resource group. Inside the resource group, we see that the storage account is created. Everything looks good. We have successfully created the resource group and the storage account using Terraform. I hope you like this video and I'm sure that you learned something new today. If you do like this video, please consider to subscribe and I will see you in yet another interesting video. Thank you.